We just opened our fourth 365 store, and but I suppose that the real meaning of that question is because we have shareholder activists now.
Yes,
and,
yes.
Well, there's not much I can talk about that because we're announcing earnings next week, so we're in our quiet period, but our company is dedicated to creating long-term shareholder value for all of our shareholders, including activists and anybody else that buys our stock. So we look forward to a constructive relationship, or we hope we'll have a constructive relationship with them.
Also, I think one of the major things that you're facing right now, we're seeing a lot of retailers get really competitive in the organic space, organic, natural space. You know, some really big supermarkets, Kroger, Costco, Walmart. How do you compete? How do you sort of created this space and now you've seen new entrants. What do you do?
I mean, I think that it is a very competitive marketplace, and I think our success it's changed the world, and a lot more people are copying us now. So, but there's tremendous competitive pressure all through it. I mean, Publix just reported a negative same-store sales number yesterday or the day before. Kroger's reported negative comps. It's a hyper-competitive market, and what Whole Foods does, we feel like we're still best of class. We have very high EBITDA margins. We have great sales per square foot, best of class, and we're kind of doubling down on our core customers as well as continue to try to innovate and differentiate and take cost out of our system.
So if we are seeing all these developments in natural, organic, and there is so much consumer interest, why are we still facing so many health issues in this country? Why is there a health crisis if people really are interested in changing their diets?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of misinformation about what a healthy diet is. And I mean, organic potato chips are, they're not healthy. You're a lot better off eating a non-organic, real potato as opposed to a highly processed food. And I mean, it's complex. I mean, we're basically evolved to crave calorie-dense foods. And they were scarce in our evolutionary history, but today we're affluent and we can eat calorie-dense foods every single meal. And we like things that have a lot of fat in them. We like things that have a lot of protein in them. We like things that have a lot of sugar in them. We crave those things, and so we easily get addicted to foods that are deeply unhealthy for us. I mean, the statistics are chilling. 71% of Americans now are overweight and 38% are obese. 47% of the population is either diabetic or pre-diabetic. And 19% of children that are under 18 years of age now show the first signs of heart disease. And so it's very chilling statistics.
So you just wrote a book that addresses some of these issues and how we should be eating in a way that can maybe help our health. What, in your view, is the solution?
I did write a book called The Whole Foods Diet, and it's been out a couple of weeks now. And we tried to ground the book completely in science, but we think the overwhelming evidence is that eating a real foods diet, eating whole foods, not a bunch of processed junk foods, plus mostly plants. And so it's not arguing for a 100% vegan diet, but it does argue for at least a 90% plant-based diet. So eat real foods, mostly plants. And we have a program in Whole Foods Market where we take our sickest team members, those who have diabetes, those who are obese, those who have heart disease, and we put them on a medically supervised 1 week total health immersion. And in that 1 week, people can make amazing progress in just 1 week. We control the food, and they're eating the whole foods diet for a week, and just nothing but real foods, mostly plants. And generally, type 2 diabetes is a dietary disease. It can be reversed for most people off their meds and cured within less than 30 days. And that's just something that you're not being told by your doctors. So that's a completely reversible disease. Heart disease, that has also been proven to be a reversible disease. And the work of Dean Ornish, Kowitt, Esselstyn, and others have shown that's quite possible. So this is a win-win-win program for Whole Foods because we take our sickest team members, they get their health back, and that saves us millions and millions of dollars a year in healthcare costs since we're self-insured.
So one thing that is sort of interesting is that you do sell stuff in your stores, though, that you yourself wouldn't fit into your diet. How do you walk that balance then between giving consumers what they want and what you think is the right kind of food?
Yeah, I get asked that question all the time. And, maybe the best answer is that my first store, I had a store before Whole Foods Market. It was called Safer Way. And it was vegetarian. It didn't sell any alcohol. It didn't sell any caffeine. It didn't sell any sugar. It didn't sell any refined grains.
Sounds really fun.
It didn't do any business. It was very pure, but it didn't have any business. And when we relocated that store and began to sell animal foods, some products with concentrated sweeteners in it, coffee, tea, beer and wine, we opened the highest volume natural food store in the United States 3 months after we opened it in Austin, Texas, back in 1980. So you have to meet the market where you find it. People here are mostly in business, and you may have the highest ideals in the world. You try to educate people. You try to, I wrote a book. I'm always trying to persuade people, but ultimately you have to sell what people want to buy, or you don't have a business. So business people understand that, and the people that ask me those questions, your present company accepted,
yeah, thank you,
generally don't understand how business works, and so they just can't understand why I would do something that I wouldn't myself consume. But I would like nothing better than the customers at Whole Foods Market to vote those foods out of the store with their dollars. As long as they keep voting for foods that I don't think are particularly healthy, we're going to continue to sell it to them.
Have you seen any foods voted out of the store?
Yeah, foods are voted out of the store all the time. If they don't sell well, we drop them. And so we're dropping products pretty much every week and adding new products. So, but if you mean any major categories, has meat been voted out? No.
Right.
It's being voted in.
Right. So you have sort of an interesting food journey yourself. You were a kid that never ate vegetables, and today you are a vegan who travels with a rice cooker. How did you get there? And what was that journey like for you?
Well, I can't tell that whole journey here in the limited amount of time we have, but I guess when I was 23 years old, when I kind of had my food consciousness awakened, I moved into this vegetarian co-op in Austin, Texas. I wasn't a vegetarian. I didn't eat vegetables, but I just moved into it because it was like 1975. I just thought I'd meet super cool people. And I did. I met really cool people. I became a vegetarian. Pretty soon I just had my whole food consciousness awakened. I learned how to cook. I became the food buyer for the co-op, and I started Whole Foods Market a couple of years later because I'd found my path in life. I just didn't know it. I was very impassioned. So that was the beginning of my journey.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to open up to questions, but first I want to ask you a little bit about, in your book you write about food as medicine and lifestyle medicine. Is that something that we talk or think enough about right now in this country?
No. I mean, the statistics show that about 80% of what we're spending on healthcare cost in America are for basically dietary and lifestyle diseases that they aren't going to be reversed through some kind of heroic technological intervention. Instead, they're going to be reversed as we become more conscious and change the way we eat and the way we live. And I mean, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, medical care itself, those are the biggest causes of death in the United States. It's no longer infectious diseases. If you go back 120 years ago, tuberculosis was knocking people off by the millions every year. But that's not an issue any longer. And polio, and I mean, we have vaccinations, we have antibiotics, and so a lot of those infectious diseases that used to kill us, they have been dealt with. Now it's these chronic lifestyle diseases, and we're not going to get heroic interventions through drugs and technology. We're on the wrong path. These are dietary lifestyle diseases, and they will be cured as people change their diet and their lifestyles.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Right back there, right there.
I'm Yoki Matsuoka from Nest. behavioral change is incredibly hard. Many of us know that good food is good, but convincing everybody to actually do it is really hard. Do you have any secrets in terms of technology or coaches or human or what combination secrets might actually make a dent?
We do have that's a very good question, and it isn't easy, mostly because people are not aware that we all have food addictions. And it's not merely enough to have knowledge. You have to change the pattern itself, and that oftentimes requires support. It requires community to do it. We have 3 chapters in the book that basically are dedicated to the psychology of pleasure and how to make a transition in diet. I will tell you one thing, that you have to re-educate your palate, because we've been desensitized to crave, again, calorie-dense foods. And we have to, what I have found, that you can teach your palate, you can re-educate your palate. Maybe a good example would be, if you go to the gym and you start, I'm going to start working out, or I'm going to start a new running program, or I'm going to start doing yoga, and you do it one time, you're going to be sore. Your body's not used to it. You're going to be sore. And what if you said, I tried running, I tried yoga, I tried lifting weights, I didn't feel good, I hurt, so I never did it again. Well, that's how people oftentimes relate to food. They try a healthy food one time, they try kale, and they say, I don't like that, and so they never eat it again. But just like you got to get your body in shape through exercise, you have to get your palate in shape. You have to re-educate, you have to train it. And generally, you have to expose your palate to a new food about 10 to 15 times before you like it. So it takes some conscious effort to do that, but I have taught myself to like all the foods that I used to never like. I like everything now, and it's just because I've taught myself to like it. You might as well re-educate yourself to enjoy the healthiest foods in the world. There's no loss in pleasure, but you'll have to make the effort to re-educate yourself. It's worth it.
We have another question right there.
Hi, this is Anu Acharya from Map My Genome. Firstly, I'm a big fan, but 2 questions. One is, when do you expand to India? And the second is, if you had to reconfigure people's mind, would you offer counseling as the person enters the store to be able to decide what kind of foods they would like to eat based on who they are and their genetic profile?
Okay. Counseling, that's interesting. But we don't have any plans to go to India anytime soon. The hardest thing about expanding to another country, if you're a retailer, is supply chain. Unless you make an acquisition and you're just trying to start from scratch, all the economies of scale Whole Foods Market has developed over 30, almost 40 years of business, those go out the window when you go into another country. You're just starting over again. So unless you can do an acquisition or you have some type of supply chain that gives you the relationships as well as the scale, it's just a very difficult path. We're climbing that path in Canada and the UK, but they have been struggles, and those countries are both profitable for us, but if you look at it on a return on invested capital, it's taken a long time to get there. Regarding counseling, that's an interesting idea, and I viewed it as a concierge process where people be willing to pay more for it. It's an idea to experiment with, and it's actually happening because we have health coaches and wellness coaches and things like that, but people are going to have to pay for that. I don't think we could do it on a practical basis in all our stores unless as a free service.
Question over there.
So quick question for you. Abigail Barnes with Allergy Amulet. You mentioned shareholder value at the beginning of the discussion, and there's been a trend now towards stakeholder value. So shareholders and the environment and employees.
Yep.
And that's this push towards, as you may know, benefit corporations,
right.
Certified B corporations, and Whole Foods seems like a good candidate for that designation. It holds companies to higher standards of transparency. Right. You probably know Milton Friedman popularized this idea.
I know all of this. What's your question?
Yeah. So is Whole Foods considering securing a benefit corporation designation or incorporating as a benefit corporation or certification?
Well, I did write a book on this, called Conscious Capitalism, which advocates for stakeholder perspective. So I believe in business having a higher purpose. I believe in business creating value for all its stakeholders, including its investors. So whether we can incorporate it as a B corporation when we have shareholder activists, I'd say that's improbable at this time. However, I do wish we had incorporated as a benefit corporation a few years ago, but we did not, and probably that opportunity is past for the foreseeable future.
Right there. Oh, sorry. Yep, go ahead.
I have two very quick questions. What's your opinion of the FDA's recommended food pyramid? And what's your opinion of the book, The China Study?
Well, the China study is featured in my book, The Whole Foods Diet, and we recognize Colin Campbell as a whole foodie hero. We designate many people in that book as whole foodie heroes. So Colin Campbell's work on the China study is very important, so I really support that work. And what was the other question?
The food pyramid.
You know, that's all so politicized. It's so politicized. There's so many different influences. You have a lot of food companies that in various industries that exert. You have a lot of those people who are consultants to the industries and receiving large money. It's, you know, I would say it's a fairly corrupt process, and so that's my opinion.
Question right there.
Thanks. Alexei Nazem from Nomad Health. Calorie-dense, unhealthy foods are inexpensive. Whole foods are not. How do we fix that?
Well, it's not true. I mean, the healthiest diet in the world, if you were to eat, say, well, what did I have for breakfast today? I traveled with my rice cooker, soaked steel-cut oats. I had a big bowl of steel-cut oats this morning with a little bit of blueberries and a little bit of unsweetened almond milk, and it was pennies. It was very inexpensive. And then if you're eating brown rice and beans with some vegetables that are in season, very inexpensive. The healthiest diet in the world does not cost much money, but you have to know how to cook. You have to at least know how to cook basic foods, and you'll need to base it around the whole food starches, and which the blue zones, the longest-lived peoples, base their diets around whole food starches, as does practically every civilization that's ever existed. So here's the thing. I'll make two other comments about it. First of all, calorie density can be inexpensive, but nutrient density is not inexpensive. If you're going to eat foods that have a lot of nutrient density per calorie, you're going to have to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. They are going to cost more. So calories can be cheap, but what are you getting? You're just getting things that make you fat. You're not getting foods that make you healthy. And then, if you were to factor in the long-term cost of health care, those foods are the most expensive foods you could eat because you're going to be paying for them big time down the road through additional health care costs. So, but I stick to my first argument, which is if you eat real whole foods that are mostly plants, you will not be spending much money. Ironically, I'm a very wealthy man. I spend very little money, and I, not surprisingly, shop exclusively at Whole Foods Market. I don't spend very much money on food because I eat super healthy foods and I know how to cook. So that's my answer.
John, thank you for sharing your food secrets with us. So
Okay.
terrific.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.